Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. My name is Martha Brown, and I am your volunteer with Dementia Friendly Fort Worth. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am your host for today's activity. Our topic today is sports, brought to you by Peggy Spear from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Let's hear it about sports. Peggy, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction, Martha. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
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 All right, let's get this party started.
Woohoo!
This party.
It's a party. It's always a party.
It's always a party with us.
Artful Moments party.
Our art, yes, our culture for the day, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
All right, gang. Well, today we're talking about sports because what's happening this upcoming weekend?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Oh my word, Super Bowl time.
Oh no. I can't believe it feels, because of COVID, it feels like, oh, the Super Bowl. No one's doing any commercials, and we're not going to be able to stuff our face with a million friends. So it's just kind of another football game. Plus, I don't have a team in the game this year. How about you guys?
We have a team.
Oh,
We do. Kansas City.
Yeah, I hope Kansas City wins.
I root for the Chiefs as well.
Yes.
Who do
Tom
you?
Brady, we need to knock him down a few pegs.
Yeah.
I'm sick of him. I grew up in Baltimore, so I'm a Ravens fan, and so we are not Pats fans. Well, we're not Pats. Tampa Bay, whoever he's
Tampa
playing,
Bay, yeah.
that way.
Who's in the Super Bowl this year?
Say that again.
John, what was that?
Who's in the Super Bowl this year?
It's the Kansas City Chiefs
Chiefs,
and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay.
And this is the first Super Bowl to ever be hosted in the city that has the team playing. So this is
Yes.
the first time Tampa Bay
Oh, really?
that's
Ah,
playing
It's the
in
first
Tampa
city.
Bay.
Did
then
you
it's good that they can't have any spectators.
I know. And that probably kills Tom Brady because he wants all the attention. That guy.
Uh-huh.
Well, enough of my hatred for Tom Brady. Let's start talking about art. I didn't know we were going to go there. Apparently, a nerve had been hit. Anyway, we're looking at we're going to look at several different sports, not just football, but we're going to start off with football because it feels pretty relevant. So, what do we see here?
Football game.
Football game.
Looks like Texas OU.
It's
Yeah.
OU versus.
Texas.
Texas.
Must be the Cotton Bowl. No?
You know
That's
what?
in
It's actually
Austin.
not the Cotton Bowl.
This
I
is-
thought that too. This is actually down in Austin, Texas. And the only
Austin.
reason I
In
realized I was
Austin,
wrong is because the
Texas.
title is Austin, Texas.
Talking about the cotton.
Oh,
Bowl.
it is.
I know. I thought the same thing. Was like, oh, how perfect, Super Bowl or Cotton Bowl.
Cotton
No, no,
Bowl.
no. We're down in UT. So, okay, so let's kind of talk about what we see here. You guys identified the teams. So
Mhm.
there's immediate relevancy. Did anyone go to UT or OU? Or have children?
Thank God, no.
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 I went to the University of Houston.
Okay, so another
Good.
Texas.
That's
Did
good.
anyone go to school in Texas or college in Texas? Are we all Texas people?
Nope.
Nope.
Morning,
Yeah.
Nancy.
Well, our kids went to A&M and their spouses.
Okay.
We went to Kansas State University. We were
Okay.
married at the time.
I have two masters from two Texas schools.
Which schools, Steve?
One is Lamar University, and the other one is Southwestern Baptist Seminary in Fort Worth.
Oh,
cool.
very good.
That's a lot of work.
I know. Any other Texas universities, not UT, but Texas University grads in the joint?
Baylor.
Baylor, there you go.
University of Houston.
University of Houston.
I can't quite see Miss Nancy. Nancy, could you get your daughter to adjust the camera so we can see
Oh,
your?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Oh,
Hey,
perfect.
Nancy.
Morning,
There's
Nancy.
that
Morning, Nancy.
smile. There's that smile. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Peggy.
Oh, no, you're fine. We need to make sure we can see everybody's put them.
That's
We
a-
see an umpire.
So we're looking at two Texas teams. So whether you went to these, or well, OU's not Texas, but two teams that
I gave it, and
if you didn't go there, you still know that football is a big old deal in Texas.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Texas
I grew up
Tech is
I grew up Northeast. College football, it was like Penn State and Michigan.
Everybody
It was a
talking.
very different round of teams that seem important to us up there. But
Yeah.
all right, so what else do we see? We see we're in
The
the middle of
umpire.
the game,
A full stadium.
a full stadium. Doesn't that seem funny to see?
That does, yeah.
It does today.
Yeah.
It looks like Texas has kicked off to OU, and OU's what on the 30-yard line right now before they get tackled.
Look at you.
I'm amazed that you can see all that.
I know that number, that yard call out. Way to
Well,
go.
I pay attention to football.
Yeah, we could tell.
Gee,
Did you hear that?
Very cloudy, like it
Pays
might
attention
rain.
to football.
Cloudy, yeah, like might be raining or about to rain. Okay, so let's talk
Yeah,
about the
right on there.
perspective.
Clouds.
Okay, so I heard someone say clouds again. Yeah, the weather looks kind of overcast, kind of like
Yeah.
one of those fall days where you don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
they already,
Oh, it looks
the
like the
lights
lights
are
might be
already on, it looks like.
the
Yeah.
lights
This
are
is
on.
in Austin, Texas.
Also,
Austin.
the picture is taken at an angle or is shot at an angle to help that forward motion in the tackle thing. It looks like
Yeah.
you're falling that way.
Yep.
Mhm.
Janine, you're right. He, and we'll talk a little bit about the artist, but Winogrand was known for framing the picture in a way that it felt like there was action happening. So I mean, granted, the people in the photograph are moving, but it was
Yeah.
framed in a way that you're caught in the motion of it. Where do you think this person, or, the photographer standing where?
On the
Right on
side-
the line, right on the sideline at the 30-yard line.
Right on the sideline. So you're kind of getting the perspective of who would be on the sideline.
Bench players.
Bench
players.
player,
Coach.
coach,
Coaches.
The coach.
The
So
flag,
you-
the flag guys.
the flag guys. Yeah, right. The ones holding the chains,
Mhm. Cheerleaders.
cheerleaders. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sense I'm getting is that whoever said coach or bench player, because I feel like you get, the ref is right there. You're kind of in the middle of play, and you get this sense of you're not a spectator, but you're not in the action, but you still have that stress as if you're in the action, but you're watching it outside of the action. I don't know. Does anyone else get that kind of sense? You're sort of in this like liminal state of
Yes.
not in it, but not
Yes.
out of it.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
The
Yeah.
bad part about photographers is they're looking at one spot, they don't see the rest of the action.
Yeah.
So somebody could run off the field and hit them, they wouldn't even see them coming.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, and this particular photographer, I'm not sure, have any of you heard of Gary Winogrand?
I have.
No.
You have not. Okay, so if you ever, in art history of photography 101, he is one of those photographers that was really made a name for himself while he was alive, and kind of changed the type, created almost like a new sense of photography. And this type of photography was called, which he rejected, street photography.
Street
And so-
photography.
Yeah, street photography, kind of like photojournalism, kind of like a candid, but he was pushing something that was, journalistic photograph, photojournalism. He was pushing it to make it a fine art. So it wasn't just to document what you were seeing. It was more of creating, Janine touched on this way the photograph is framed. He was really doing it to create the art of it and not even necessarily tell a story, which of course we've just constructed a story, but that wasn't his intent. He was really focused on, and kind of what Steve was saying, focused on seeing things through a different lens, even if he wasn't taking a photograph. So he was a professor at UT for a few years, a photography professor in the fine arts department. And he didn't really teach the technicality of photographing, of what your camera does and how you develop the film. He was really interested in helping his students learn how to see an image to then take the image, and learning how to frame and find find the balance, find the story, find the contrast, even though it wasn't about the story, and then snap that, and how does that translate into a camera? So he was really focused on the social landscape of things, not necessarily telling what was happening in that moment. I'm not interested in the score of this. Are any of you?
No.
No, you wouldn't necessarily care if you saw this, but think, oh, I need to see this in the sports section of a newspaper. You're kind of interested in, like, it. To me, I feel like I can hear the crowd being loud.
Yeah.
You get that sense of motion. So you're brought into what this social setting is, and you're not really interested in learning the exact story.
So is this is this a photo in the Amon Carter?
Yes. So this photograph we have in our collection, but it's one of these photographs that so many museums have in their collection as well. Gary Winogrand is in almost any American art museum for weight and salt. But this particular photograph happens to be one of those photographs that is all, in a lot of collections across the country. And you might have seen his photographs, not knowing you're seeing his photographs. He really made popular this idea. He would be on the street, and he had a 35mm camera, so he's pretty discreet. And he would take pictures of people on the street, people window shopping, people interacting outside of stores, things like that, that had a sense of candidness to it. They didn't know they were being photographed. Often he wouldn't stage his photographs. He would happen upon these situations. So while it's not on the street, it's very true of his style to just kind of happen upon these pictures. And because he was a professor at UT, he was able to get on the field and get in the action because he was part of faculty.
I have a question for you, Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
The picture is not level, and I noticed that the referee has his feet in the frame, but it tips off to the left. Is the tip intentional? Is that the kind of guy Winogrand was?
Most typically, yes. There is also, this he would have been seen, but there was also a discreetness to his photography as well. So he might not have always lifted his camera up to his face. There might have been some of that happening at his chest level because he was really interested in capturing the actual, not, oh, now I know I'm being photographed, I'm going to change my demeanor, my facials, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is not necessarily one of the best representations of that, but like when he landed in Austin or was flying in and out of the airport, he would bring his camera with him and he would be sitting in the airport and take pictures of people sitting, waiting for their flights. And I can't imagine people would always be comfortable with him taking, but he would be in public places that allowed him to take pictures of people without having to sign. Again, I'm sure it was a little looser with legal situation, but it was a sense of, publicness that allowed him to catch the social landscape. And so Gary traveled throughout the whole country, Colorado, Texas, New York, California, taking pictures of these types of social street settings. And then for a while he was teaching in Texas and then moved back up north.
For your information, OU won this game.
Oh, you won this game in 74?
Yep.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, I pulled it up.
And Peggy, number 29 is named Horace Ivory.
Oh, how interesting.
So if anybody knows anything about Texas football or Oklahoma football, I don't know if he ever did anything for himself after that or what happened.
I don't know. Look, 29's right on 29. There we go.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna shift sports. We're gonna shift gears, and we're gonna move to another artist, another sport.
Ooh.
What do we see?
Boxing.
Boxing.
Mm-hmm. Boxing.
Say that again, Janine.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I must have missed. Did someone say something?
Somebody
Boxing.
said boxing.
Boxing, yeah.
I'm just hearing the voices in my head now. God. Yeah. So
She
this is
talks
a
really
boxing
fast.
team.
She talks really
And,
fast.
okay. Does anyone know? Has anyone heard of the artist George Bellows before?
No.
No.
Okay, so he is a New Yorker. was living in New York City in the early 1900s. He lived a very short life. I think he was about 41 or 42, somewhere in there when he passed away of an appendicitis. And there's, a joke in the art history world, if they died of an appendicitis, they probably were an alcoholic, but that's just how art historians are remembering them. So Remington died of an appendicitis. I don't think he was an alcoholic, but anyway, that's kind of, if you ever see an artist dying of appendicitis, you might want to read in between the lines on that one.
Hey,
Anyway.
I gotta know. It says George Bellows. Does that mean he yells a lot?
I bet he does.
Boy,
What?
There.
so Bellows was a New York artist, and he was part of a group called the Ash Can Group, an artistic group called the Ash Can Group. And it got its name from the, he was known for painting or depicting, sketching here, the kind of the grit of urban life in New York City. And so ash cans were often where kind of under bridges and where people would get trash cans that would have fires in them. That was sort of where that grit, that name came from. So he was really made a name for himself painting these kind of the seedy side of cities of New York City. And so this is one of those examples. This particular scene he initially did as an oil painting in 1909. And we have in our collection the lithograph. He ended up having a lithography set in his studio, which lithography was becoming more and more popular in the United States. At this time, it was a very tricky, it still is a very tricky process, and I can't fully explain it to you because I myself don't completely understand it, but they're using big stones, lithographic stones, and using different oils called touches. They're kind of, different inks, and they would create this scene on the stone, and then it was a paper process where then they would lay the paper on, roll it over with like something heavy, and then they would peel off and they would have their image.
It's almost like an engraving on stone.
Yeah. And you would line papers up with registers and things like that. Like we looked at different lithographs. We have the Tamarind collection in our collection, which is artists that were known for oils or sculptures or whatever, that then tried to translate their craft to lithography. So we've looked at quite a few as a group together, and this is just another example of he was not using any color. He was using black and white, or just black inks, and he was really, really good at creating these black and white contrasts to kind of get at that grittiness
So you said he's using black ink?
Yes.
So he was drawing them in black ink, or was?
No, that's what he would put on the lithographic stone,
Okay.
and then he would lay the paper on top of the stone.
Well, that's why it looks like it's got all these scratchy lines on it, I guess.
He used a very etching type of approach to get his scene on the lithographic stone. So we see a fight scene. What else do we notice is happening in the scene?
The people
People are all crowded around the ring.
People are all gathered around the
All male
ring.
audience.
Say that again, Paulette.
I said it looks like an all male audience.
All male audience. You're exactly right. This was
Looks like
taken.
one of the
Oh, go ahead.
wrestlers is pushing the referee out of the way.
No, I don't know. I think he's just getting a swing going.
I think you're right, Don. I think the way he's squatting and his arm is, it looks like he's hitting him, but the ref, I think, is trying to get down in the action and his arm is pulled back.
And if we hadn't seen that little piece of a glove, it would almost look like a bare knuckle fight.
Yeah, right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Because they didn't wear anything on top. It was bare chested, and
Yeah.
they just swung at each other. It looks like they've been fighting for a while because the sweat on the heads. They've been fighting for a while.
Yeah, we don't know, but this was a regular occurrence at this particular place called Sharky's. It was a bar by day, evening, and then it turned into a boxing arena essentially at night. And this was when boxing was basically forbidden. And so this was This was, all men, an all men crowd after work, going to this bar, going to gamble, going to bet. And a stag, is a single male. So, could be a stag, could have been any one of these guys. There's some historical talk that this bald man right here down off of the boxing mat ring is that self-portrait of the artist who often went to Sharky's and often enjoyed watching these boxing matches. And we don't know if these are actual faces of patrons who he might have been friends with. Some speculate it might be. We don't know. Or we don't know who they are, if they are real people.
So Peggy,
Mhm.
something's off about the perspective of this, because it shows the ropes behind him, a corner, and the ropes coming out. But all these guys should be behind the ropes on the other side of the stage.
You're right.
Good
I think it's
observation.
just part of the artistic liberties he took for us to see.
Artistic license, yeah.
Mhm.
And so, but this is, he's using other artistic tools like this is basically in the shape of a triangle.
Yes.
That's as old as time, to really create a strong base, and your eyes kind of go up to the heart of the action up here. So he knew what he was doing when he did these types of things. And you wouldn't really be as interested if they had lines running across him in the middle of it. It might kind of take away from the action.
Mhm.
So
You know,
this was,
it's loud because of how the men are turned to each other to talk.
Good
you're right.
point.
It does have a sense of motion, and
Happening.
not chaotic, but kind of
Yes.
hectic. And these artworks, Bellows did a number of different. We're going to look at one more lithograph of his, but these paintings and sketches are really what put him on the map in terms of how people identified him. He is known for these boxing scenes. He has a lot, not a large, but he has a big library of boxing scenes. And in his time, he created around 200 lithographs. So he did a number of boxing scenes. And again, this is one of these artworks that, while Cleveland Museum of Art has the actual oil painting, a number of museums in the US have these prints of the boxing scene. So switching gears, we're still in Bellows, but switching to something a little brighter. This is another one of his sketches. So
Polo match.
Polo match. So what do you see here?
Horses.
Mm-hmm.
Mallets.
Not as distinct in the characters.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of license in this one
Yeah.
with the bent sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bent polo mallet.
Mallet, thank you.
It feels a little more rushed in terms of his artistic hand to me.
Yes.
Not as, kind of what you were saying, Martha, not as polished or finished.
Mhm.
Right.
Or like a rough sketch.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right, Steve.
Yeah.
And that's in the name.
Polo sketch, yeah.
Polo stick is bent.
Yeah. So kind of, and Myra said it about the last one, you kind of get a feel for the sounds you might be hearing in this one. You've got a horse mid-gallop. We've got mallets raised up in the air, so you're going to hear the hit of a ball or the yell of a player. Commotion is happening. We see some dogs right here who seem pretty engaged in what's happening with the horse. But we don't know who these particular riders are. We know that in 1910, he started going to polo matches in New Jersey. And so that was something, that's very different. I mean, this is highfalutin, upper echelon type of sports compared to the gritty boxing matches that were happening illegally at nighttime in a dark bar.
Yeah.
So he was really interested in this stark contrast of, you get outside the city and this is the type of sport that's happening.
Folks, I'm going to have to leave for today.
Thank you, Steve. Talk to you later.
Another call. We'll see you tomorrow
Childhood.
with all our childhood memories.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peggy, something else is the man is standing there with his arm around the woman. Usually you're not that close to a polo match, but he's also got on riding boots. So maybe he had just been in a match or something.
What a good observation. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, his foot is on basically the boundary line for that
Yes.
polo field. I don't know about you, but I would not want to get that close.
No.
So I don't know if you mentioned this, Peggy, but polo was a match for the rather wealthy people.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't remember.
Yeah. So that was part of what his fascination was with it. And then, someone pointed out, I think Paulette pointed out, we only see men. Well, here now we have the introduction of a woman.
Yes.
Yep.
Able to enjoy this sport as well.
There's a woman.
Is the guy off to the right the referee?
I don't
With a striped shirt on?
Yeah, it's got his kind of stripes on his shirt.
He might be. It looks like they're all kind of wearing stripes, so I don't know if that might be a uniform or
Yeah, it might be a team
That one
colors.
looks more like a referee shirt.
this one over here.
No, one in the middle.
Oh, right here, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know. We just know that there's a lot of people with raised mallets running around in the craziness of a polo match.
Let's hope it's not a fight.
Let's hope it's not a fight.
Well, they're riding horses and swinging things, ballots. I'm sure some people get hit.
All right, we're going to jump to the next one. This is just a quick one because I found these photographs and they're pretty fun, but of a tennis match. And Carl Struess, this particular photographer keeps coming up with us. He's the one that had the really cool Christmas cards that he made with his family. He's the one that they had a picnic on the beach with his little girl, Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is that same photographer. And so when he moved to LA, he got really interested in going to tennis matches, and he was a big player himself and a big fan of the sport. And this is at the one of the country clubs, tennis clubs in Los Angeles. So just a fun one for any of you tennis players out there. This is a different sport. We've got lacrosse. We've talked about lacrosse in a different oil painting. We're looking now at a lithograph with watercolor. Kind of a different scene than what we've seen in the past. What catches your eye first?
They're Indians.
They're native, yeah.
You're brown.
But didn't they invent the game?
They did, Yetta.
They did, yes.
So yes, we've got, I think he's done a number of Choctaw playing, the Choctaw Nation playing. This is an open. So it's not labeled Choctaw, but I'm pretty sure that this is Choctaw Nation playing lacrosse.
I'll be.
Looks like an awful lot of players on the field.
Yeah, there might be more than one game going on here.
Both of you are correct. So George Catlin was a white explorer, so to speak, that came with different U.S. groups, government groups that came to kind of explore the land and the whole bit, military groups. And so George Catlin would record often pretty quickly and often on the back of a horse what he was seeing to try to bring back east what was happening out west in terms of American Indian activity. And Catlin was just enamored with these ball games, but we know it as lacrosse, but these ball games. And he wrote a very detailed description once of a Choctaw Nation lacrosse or ball game happening. And yet he said that there were between 800 and 1,000 young men playing at any given point.
Wow.
Whoa.
So we don't know if that was an exaggeration. Catlin was known to do that. Not exactly. I mean, he's seeing it through a lens that he was not ever immersed in these cultures. It was him watching from the outside. He never formed close relationships with any of the nations he would record. So who knows if it was actually that many people. It would go for days often. These the nations would all meet, different parts of the nation would all meet at one, come from miles and miles away and all meet in one area where they could play. And each team would set up their own goalpost.
Mm-hmm.
So these were often about 25 feet high. They're pretty high and about 8 feet apart, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that would kind of be the home base for the different teams. So they'd start playing from about 9 o'clock in the morning until sundown. And then at night, they would have different ceremonies, dance ceremonies. The women would then perform, and families would come and watch this. Children and women were often watching, spectating. Older men were often the referees, so to speak. But you would see, and they're painted here, but they wouldn't always be painted as the games went on. This was kind of like their opening ceremony, so to speak. And you can see, you see all sorts of different things happening.
Oh, yeah.
Here we've got some sort of round or some sort of ball, scuttle happening. Here we've got people, they're not even in the ball action. They're just fist fighting over here.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, this was like a fight was started, then a lacrosse game came out of it.
It's really true. And they were not wearing, all they would be really wearing is, you can kind of see their tail pieces.
Yeah.
Kind of like their loincloth. And, they weren't wearing any sort of protective gear. And I'm going to show you what the men today are pretty protected.
Yeah.
Wearing helmets, gloves, shoulder pads, elbow pads, chest pads, mouth guards.
Yeah.
And they're not using a rock, they're just using a rubber ball, whereas these guys were often using rocks.
Rocks. Wow.
So yeah, their lacrosse sticks, you can kind of see the shape of their lacrosse sticks. Now we're using plastic, we're not using wood, so there's a little more give to it. We're using hollow aluminum versus these heavy wood sticks. But yeah, so this is another sport this is what it looked like. And now there's only 12 men on a field, not even 12. We've got goalies. They didn't have goalies. And we do have goals on either end of the field. And they would have in the middle of their field, basically like some sort of little stick or something would come up and they would put the ball on the middle. And that would be their face off. They would run in, whoever got the ball first, that would then kick off the game. And sometimes, and Catlin wrote in his log, sometimes they didn't even know where the ball was because there was so much dust kicked up. And for 20 minutes, they'd all be fighting each other, maybe what we're seeing here. And everyone else could see the ball might have been over here.
Yeah.
So it was really very entertaining for everybody involved.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Isn't there a comedian around today named George Catlin?
No, that was George Carlin. He's not around.
Oh,
anymore.
George Carlin. Okay.
He's
I
not
was
around anymore.
close. I was just a letter off. Come on.
I like the way your brain works. What,
Oh, I didn't know it worked.
Peggy?
I want to know how
Go ahead,
those
Jenny.
25-foot poles stay up there.
Repeat that, Janine. You want to know what?
How the 25-foot poles stay upright.
They would dig them into the ground. They would dig them pretty deep into the ground. And I think you can see here that they would have, they would probably erect it, tie the top piece together. And then the men, typically the judges, which would have been the older men, would put them into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're using long trees.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of it?
In this particular instance, it was just for entertainment and festivities, for celebration.
Yeah.
So they would have different dances at night to the Great Spirit. This would be like part of a whole celebration.
Yeah.
Typically, the Iroquois Nation, which is the northeast into Canada, that the Iroquois Nation would often play as war. So like the Mohawks, if that's one of the 5 nations in the Iroquois Nation, the Mohawks were often very violent. And so that would be to settle something that was a dispute. We're here, we're just seeing it for the love of the sport and for the celebration of whatever that nation was celebrating at the time. All right, we got one more artwork, and I know we're running over, but
You can have until 11:15 if you want it.
okay, well, we're gonna toe that line then.
Okay.
We got one more. And this is by Peggy Bacon, who's also a Margaret and goes by Peggy.
Bowling.
Not to include her. And what do we see here?
Bowling.
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 It's Dry Point.
Dry point, yeah. So this is an etching technique we haven't typically seen a lot of, but yeah. Has anyone heard of the artist Peggy Bacon?
No.
No.
Nope.
She was a New Yorker. Peggy Pork Chop. She was a New Yorker that trained under and painted with George Bellows, the boxing artist we just saw. So they knew each other in New York. Peggy Bacon was a caricaturist, so she did a lot of cartooning. That's kind of what she was known for, famous for. She ran in circles, an artistic circle. So some of the faces we're seeing here, all of the faces we're seeing are real people. Some of the art, this guy right here is an artist. So some of the faces we can tell who the artist was that she was replicating. But because she was a caricaturist, there's a sense of humor to it. So the title is Ardent Bowlers. And are we seeing much bowling happening?
No. More
Well,
socialization.
there's one guy bowling, one guy getting his ball off the rack.
That's right.
Yeah, we see 2 bowlers, but we see about 20 people. And the sport, something I read that said the sport was gossip, not bowling.
Yeah.
They're not even watching the bowling.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't be bothered. Look, they're drinking. We got beer drinkers, pipe smokers.
Cigar smoker.
Well, beer and bowling just have to go together.
Right.
I was in a bowling league once. That's what you do.
Yeah. Was anyone part of a bowling league, or did
No.
that?
No.
Oh, you were, Martha. Were you doing bowling or talking, or were you there for both?
It was a company thing, and I met one of my husbands there. So I was doing a lot of socialization.
Yeah. You were one of the ladies here with a beer or a martini in her hand.
Exactly. Yes.
Daddy was in a bowling league until the pandemic.
Oh man.
I remember there was bowling where you put your fingers in the ball and roll that. And then there was the other one with a little tiny.
Oh, duck pin.
Yeah.
Duck pin bowling. Yeah. We did that growing up because we could actually hold the ball. But yeah, so Peggy Bacon did a lot of caricaturing, and she was never mean. It never got ugly like some, cartoonists might tend to do. And so here she wasn't particularly capturing, it was this bowling alley is identifiable too. It's on 3rd Avenue in New York City. She wasn't capturing one particular night of bowling. She was capturing the overarching feel of what her bowling night looked like that week. And so she's not making fun. She would never make fun of anybody. You just kind of get certain personalities, the good parts of their personalities shining through. And then in the 30s, she decided, you know what? It's not for me anymore. I don't really like this. And she stopped doing caricatures.
Hey, Peggy.
Yeah.
What does it say over here on the right side under the drawing?
I cannot.
Peggy Bacon.
Yeah, it says Peggy Bacon. I think that says affectionate.
Something.
Party?
Bishop.
Yeah, I can't read it. And then the title, and yeah, I don't know what that says. And I don't think in our database it transcribed what that.
Okay, just curious.
Affectionate greetings to something Bishop.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Isabel? Does it say
Isabel, yeah.
Isabel.
Isabel, yeah, maybe.
What a team we are.
We need you guys up in curatorial stat. Get on up there. So this is one of those artworks, though, that again, it's in so many collections across the country. This was one of Peggy Bacon's most famous caricatures, and so a lot of museums have this artwork, but it's on paper, so it's not exhibited a lot because of conservation needs. All right, well, I'm leaving you with all of the sports today.
All right.
Hey,
Peggy. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Peggy.
Great.
I'm
great.
not. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, loved it. Great job. Great job.
Thanks, Paula. I can't remember, per usual, what we're doing next week. So,
Love.
Oh,
right,
February
it's
10th.
Valentine's Day.
I wouldn't
February
remember
10th,
what
we're
you're
doing
talking
love.
about. So
Oh,
it'll be a
love?
surprise.
Oh.
Bye-bye.
Good love. All right, gang. Well, I love all of you, and I will see you next week.
Okay.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Bye.
Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Miss Peggy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, gang.
Can you see this?
We can see everybody.
Can you see the purple screen?
No, sir, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right. Let's try sharing the screen, Martha. That helps a whole lot.
Yes, ma'am.
One more click. Okay. Tomorrow we have Childhood Show and Tell with your host, Gail Snyder. She was trying to decide what days she needed to be gone to do some administrative things. And she said, I really want to be there for Childhood Show and Tell.
Okay.
So she's looking forward to this, as am I.